Hi, my name is Maurice Murray, and I'd like to know something before we begin. How many of you movie enthusiasts saw the movie Steve Martin's The Jerk from 1979? Well, there's one particular scene that I'd like to share from the start of the movie, which I think applies to my icebreaker. Here we go. I am not a bum. I am a jerk. I once had wealth, power, and love of a beautiful woman. Now I have only two things: my friends and my thermos. My story? Oh, well, it's not easy for me. I was born a poor black child. I can remember the day sitting on the porch with my family singing and dancing down in Mississippi. Such a great movie. So, I'm not a bum or a jerk, although there's a few ex-girlfriends that might disagree. I've worked for the city and county in Denver, and so as well as most of you, I'm sure you know that none of us are wealthy. I've never actually been to Mississippi, but I do have the love of a beautiful woman and a thermos. For me, the thermos kind of describes my life. Let me explain. On the shelf, new and shiny. I was born in 1971, dating myself, but I make 42 look good. My mother and father were both rather young and just dating. I'll skip the birds and bees portion and just say 9 months later I was here. Well, unmarried and young, they were really unsure what the next steps were for me and them. My mom's family is of Spanish descent. My grandfather was very adamant about not wanting a black baby in his house. My father was getting ready to depart for college, and his parents were more than willing to take me in. Because of medical issues early on, my grandparents asked my parents if they could adopt me and put me under their insurance. My parents agreed and signed over their parental rights. Although I was raised by my grandparents, my dad was never too far off, instilling the values and morals that I have today. My grandmother was the rock, the tie that binds for the entire family. And still, to this day, although she is gone, she's the strongest woman I've ever known. A few scratches and a little dent on the side. Over the years growing up, I remember my father always saying that he was a lover, not a fighter. Well, it stuck, and I always took that approach too, except that I didn't really understand the expression. Fighter with who exactly? Was it the wife or the girlfriend? I didn't understand that. And my approach was a little different. I didn't want to fight with any of the guys from school or in the neighborhood. I was always having problems with other guys, avoiding confrontation at all costs, which usually meant running home from school. Well, one day, I was getting off the bus and I knew that one of the boys was after me. As soon as the doors opened, I was off like a greyhound out of the gate. I made it home and went through the doors and I was crying. My grandmother, who knew what was going on, asked what the problem was. And I explained what was going on, and I said, "They're going to get me." Well, she looked me right in the eye and she said, "Maurice, you have a choice. You can go out there and fight them, or you can stay in here and get a butt whooping." My family believed in the belt. It hurt that it had come to this, and I was much more ready to fight 4 guys than one little old lady in the house, anywhere. Unbeknownst to me and them, I could fight, and I won. My mother at this time had been dating someone else and had distanced herself from me far more than any child should be. The day before my 12th birthday, I asked my grandmother what time on the 7th I was born so I could know the exact time of that date. I had also asked if she could bake me a cake so I could take to school. Although she knew the time, she prompted me to call and ask my mom to get us talking more and building that relationship. As far as the cake, she explained that she was tired and had been on her feet all day, and that she would make a cake for me tomorrow for the family to eat. I don't think that she understood that the cake thing was really for school and getting us out of class for a brief moment, and pronounced me the king of the world. But I did understand what she was saying. So I went into my room and I called my mom. She sounded different, but being the kid that I was and having a birthday didn't faze me at all. I went right into the question, to which her response was harsh and somewhat vulgar. I didn't really understand that at the time, and that's part of another story. I'd never heard this tone from her before, and it left me broken and in tears. My grandmother heard me in another room and came to check on me. I told her the conversation, and she wrapped her arms around me and held me tight until I fell asleep. The next morning, there was a cake ready for school and one ready for home. She stayed up all night in an effort to make my day as special as she always made me feel. On the go with my thermos. During middle school, I had grown up with a group of guys that hung out together, and one day we saw one of the older guys, Mike, and he was walking with a really cute girl. Her name was Gina. Her family had just moved here from South Dakota. Needless to say, I was taken by her, thinking I was kind of suave. So I approached her and I said, "Hey, you want a date?" And she said, "No." I told her, "Oh, how about you meet me behind the stage at school and I can get a kiss?" And she went in the other direction after school. Well, I told her that I was going to follow her home and get a kiss. And guess what? She ran. In most states, this would be stalking, and I would have had to file papers somewhere and be in some list. But I didn't give up. She and I finally started dating and eventually got married. We just celebrated our 18th wedding anniversary and our 29th year together. Well, my thermos isn't quite empty yet, but that's all I can squeeze into 6 minutes. In part 2, you'll get to hear what's in the thermos. Thank you.